T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, guys, you're now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast network in the world. This is Krista with Nerify Exotics on the Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast. We're already on episode 18. This year's just flying by. Really excited for this episode tonight. We have Miss Brooke from Infinity Critters on. I'm going to talk about ball pythons, her special scaleless corn snake project she's going on, and she has a really good with Biggie, Top G, Emilio. So we're going to talk a little about him tonight and how he's kind of been a mentor to her and kind of a big brother to me as well. So yeah, super excited to talk about that. And we'll kind of get going with that. So say hi to you guys in the comments here in a minute. Updates. Not really a whole lot. This weekend, didn't really do a whole lot. It's pretty warm outside, so I went for a walk with the dogs, did some errands to get some supplies, bedding, feed, talked to my parents for an hour on the phone, which I don't do super regularly, so that was really nice. So always try, I guess what I'm saying is take the time to talk to your parents because they're not here forever, and I really try to cherish those moments. Taking a lot of time to kind of reflect back too on myself. The holidays are coming up. So yeah, drop in what you guys are doing for that. I can't believe Thanksgiving is in a few weeks, and then Christmas will fall soon after that. As far as reptile updates, I'm doing the AARPE show in Kansas City the first week of December, so that'll be a good show, I think. First time doing it in the area, so I hope there'll be a big turnout. And then this coming weekend, I'll actually be going to Chicago more for like a work conference trip, so I have to presentation and do a poster, which aren't the most fun things in the world, but it's part of my job, and so public speaking is important and something I'm trying to improve on, and I think this podcast helped me with that too. I told my boss that last week, and she could tell a difference. She was like, "Yeah, you're really like more confident and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because this podcast. It's done a lot for me so far." So, if you aren't already, if you're new here, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Things are going to be popping on the trap. MJ's got some really big news. He'll come out with a new partnerships that we're going to be having this coming year. So you definitely want to get tapped into that. We're live 7 days a week. Look at the description below on how to join the Patreon, get tapped into multiple people from all across different facets of the reptile world. I think networking is so important in this game. So definitely look to tap in there. So I'm going to say hi to some of you guys in the chat. Thanks for showing up. Week in, week out really means a lot. So, hey, Mike, how's it going? We got Ryan from MORPH Valley Trappers. Thanks for tapping in. We got Scott from Noble Family Fauna. We got Marcus from Lucid Arboreals. Thanks for tapping in. Miss Amanda, the lovely Amanda, tapping in. Thanks for being here. Luxury Pythons. What's good? Thanks for tapping in. New V-Unit member. We got Boza, and I'll kind of end up there with Boza. So yeah, thanks for tapping in, guys. I'm going to go to do some sponsors, and then we'll have Miss Brooke on. So let me take the comment off. There we go. So yeah, every week, guys, talk about US ARC. So definitely go there, become a member. Super important. We can't do what we can do without them. So it's really easy to go there, become a member for the year. Just renewed mine a couple of months ago for the second year in a row. But yeah, super important. They fight for a ride, so you can go on their website, see what states are coming up, which legislation is coming up. So again, really important to support US ARC and everything they do for us. And we got Blake from Blake's Exotic Feeders, bringing you the best top quality quail in the game. Tell him that MJ sent you from the trap, and he'll get you set up with everything you need quail-wise to feed your feeders. And then we got the COCO Dude with the chipper. So go to cocodude.com. You can use the code TRAPFAN24 to get a percentage off your order. The best cocoa in the game, personally. I won't use another brand. It's really dust free. I love the Cocoa to Go. Comes already pre-made, moistened. You kind of just throw it in with the animal and does its job. So I won't use another brand. Really happy with that. And then we got Clutch. So with the Summer and the Canova team working on that interface in order to keep track of all your ball python breedings. I know they're going to come out with a lot more additions to it to make it a lot more, I don't want to say user-friendly, but just a lot more things, tracking weights, maybe feedings and all of that. But we'll kind of wait for the updates to come out with them. But I know they're going to be coming out with a huge new interface and a lot more things to do with the Clutch. And with that, we'll kind of finish up with the focus cubed habitats. So if you're looking for something kind of turnkey and the most modern reptile housing you can find, definitely go to the focuscubed.com for their habitats. As you guys watch MJ, it's always in the back when he's doing his thing, and they look really clean and nice, easy to set up. So if you want something professional looking for your animals, definitely don't forget to go to Focus Cube Habitats. And with that, we will bring on Miss Brooke and get started. Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. What was that?
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh yeah, thanks for tapping in. I know it's late, and but I'm super excited to talk everything ball pythons and learn a little more about the scaleless corn snakes and what you do with little farm animals. We were talking a little bit before this, and super excited to hear everything. So, how's your weekend going? Doing anything fun or?
It's been great. It's a little busy. So weekends are my busier work days. And I've got a toddler, and my husband actually left for Spain this morning for a work trip. So this weekend was a little hectic, just trying to get work and the toddler all squared away before my husband left bright and early this morning. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How long is he going to be gone?
He'll be gone for a week.
Okay.
Yeah, he won't be gone too long, but it's long enough when you've got a 2-year-old you've got to chase all day.
For sure. 2-year-old plus, the farm and the business and the reptiles, it can certainly be a lot. Is that the reptile thing? Is it your primarily thing? Does he help at all, or is he just support? Or
so the reptiles are definitely my thing, and he supports. He'll go to shows with me, and he'll help me carry stuff in and set stuff up and help me vend. But the daily care and the breeding and all of that is mine.
Okay, totally fair. That's kind of like me too as well. I think it's good to at least have somebody to support your passions and all of that. We can't do it without, the other person allowing us to do this crazy thing of keeping reptiles. But
absolutely. People ask him all the time, so what do you think that Brooke has 100 snakes? And he's like, I like that she likes it.
Yeah.
Which is the best answer.
Yeah, he just wants you to be happy, but he knows it's not his thing. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's totally understandable too. Okay, very cool. I don't know, I always ask the standard question, but before I kind of get into the meat of things, we talked about, the conversation kind of goes how it goes. But can you tell people who you are, where you're from, what your business is, and what got you into reptiles?
Yeah, so I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and I started off as an environmental engineer and decided that I didn't like working behind a desk 50 plus hours a week. I didn't have to talk to anyone if I didn't want to all day. And so when I had my toddler, we had a career change, and the reptiles and my farm were kind of part of that. So the way I got into reptiles specifically is one day my husband and I were looking for a date night, and we saw a sign on the side of the road, and it said Repticon, Reptile Expo. And we're like, it must be like the aquarium. We'll go learn about like some reptiles. They'll bring them out and we'll get to learn and maybe touch or see some like cool different animals. And when we walked in the door, we were a bit surprised because we were brand new to the reptile community. We had never heard of a reptile expo. We had never seen that many reptiles in one place, let alone that they were all for sale. I was kind of in heaven. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But then I started talking to people, and I came up to one lady's table, and she had like 50 animals on her table. And I was like, how do you have time to take care of all of these animals? And she's like, it's actually not that bad. We live in an RV and we travel for shows. And I was like, holy cow. Okay. And so like, I just started talking to all the vendors there, and I was like, why is this one half white and half brown?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've always loved genetics. And so being able to talk to all the different vendors, and they're like, well, it's all just genetics. We know what this one has. We know what that one has. We know if we mix them, we'll get this percentage of this and that. And I was like, that is so right up my alley. I've always been into horses, but horses are a bit more expensive to keep and breed. And I was like, you know what? This is amazing. So I spent the next probably year just researching and being like, is this something I really want to do? Should I really get into this? Was it just a super cool experience? And I'll leave it at that. And the more I learned, the more I researched, the more I got to know reptiles, the more I just fell in love with it. And I was like, all right, this is something I really want to do. So I bought my first couple animals, and I had a really strict budget. It was just like a couple $100s per animal. And I bought 3 girls and a boy. And then I made my own rack. I bought a wine cooler and made my own incubator. And I kind of did everything from scratch to stay within my budget. And I had my first clutch of eggs, and it was het pied to het pied, because the pieds were what stood out the most at that initial show. And I think it was only like 6 or 7 eggs, and I got 1 pied, and I was so excited.
Yep.
It's awesome just thinking back on it. I named that it was a little male, and I named him Thor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but it was just really cool getting to experience that. And now, fast forward quite a few years, I run a zipline park, and I moved all my animals out onto the property. And my farm animals, I've got ponies, goats, pigs, and alpaca. They are part of like our animal encounters out here. And I have a handful of reptiles that I'll bring out for the guests as well. But then we were able to actually build a reptile building for all of my animals so that they're not just taking up the spare bedroom in my house.
Awesome.
And having that building has made a world of a difference. It's been a dream come true, honestly, to be able to have like a designated reptile space.
For sure. How big is the space?
It's 12 by 20.
12 by 20. Okay. And how many like animals do you have in there?
It is definitely not full by any stretch of the imagination, but I've got probably 130.
Okay. 130 total?
Total.
Including babies? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. How many breeder animals? I was just
I
curious.
probably have 30 to 40 adults that could breed this year, but I'm probably not going to do all of them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious just to get kind of mind on the space. It's something I would like to do like way long term in the future when I'm done with school, is like build either my own building for rats and one for the snakes. I think would be like super nice to have everything in there, like place to clean the tubs, and it would just make things more streamlined and pretty, I think. So
Yes. I envy the people that are able to do their own rodents. I wish I was able to, but I don't have. I would have to have a separate building,
Hmm.
and I don't have the time to be able to do all the rodents. I have a very good friend that lives fairly close, and he breeds and he brings me rodents, and that's been amazing. I'm willing to pay for quality, healthy rodents right down the street if it means I don't have to clean rodent tubs every couple days.
For sure. I've heard of people having that like rodent plug, like if you will, and it sounds very ideal, especially if you can get them cheaper than at like store prices. Cause like for here, I think it's like $6.99 for a small. So
Yeah.
that like adds up real quick. Oh, my cat. Get back. But yeah, I don't know how it is near you, but the prices are like crazy. I can never just buy. I buy like mice there if I need to, type of thing to feed the babies. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty similar price to like our pet store prices. And my friend, since I buy consistently in bulk, is able to give me a much better deal, which has been amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. So you feed everything pretty much live then?
I do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Super. That's a lot easier. I mean, I do the babies sometimes maybe on frozen thaw just to see if they'll take it so I can market them as frozen thawed. But live is like so much easier.
I know.
So
And
yeah.
honestly, the problem I was having, because I was on frozen thaw and just ordering in bulk, and I had a deep freezer. But by the time I laid out everything and had most of them warm, and I went to go feed and do the dead man dance and wiggle them for all the other snakes, then the others would start getting cold, and I'd have to go back and try and like it just wasn't working well. It was very challenging to heat the number that I needed and
Sure.
feed within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think that's why most people with collections would do live. It just takes so much more time, frozen thawed, and I've also like I don't know, left when I thawed mine, I do it in the incubator, and then sometimes I like forgot, and then they would just be ruined, nasty, absolute nastiness. So I either have to like set a timer or something like that. But it was just that just doesn't help with the whole frozen thawed thing. But
Yes. And then the occasional time when a rodent would explode was disgusting. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
No, I was on a Zoom call today, and yeah, they were discussing that like happening in the microwave. I know it's happened to like a lot of us, but I couldn't imagine like doing it like in my human microwave. I could never use that thing again.
Yeah, no, I just did like in a bowl with hot water and put them in a little bag. But even if you left them in there too long, like with the smaller rodents, they have really fragile like skin, and it just got gross fast.
Yeah, that would happen to my if I left them in the incubator open. They just have like holes, like all the insides are like out. I'm like, not like I'm not used to it being like a vet. I see that stuff like almost daily, but it's also like fantastic. Can't use this now, so it's like waste. So yeah. The joys. So that's pretty cool story with going to the show. That's kind of how I got into breeding myself. Was like a local show in town. I've always kind of had the reptiles, but I don't know, just going to the show and seeing people like vend and just being so excited about what they produced was like enough to like turn the switch. And so I just kind of went like all in with the leopard geckos, and I had a ball python at the time. So I kind of just bought more to breed, and then you just quickly like
It's addicting.
it's so addicting, and like it's been a real struggle like trying to tell yourself, okay, no, I don't need that animal, I can get something in the future, like a male with those genes. I don't need to buy every female with every gene out there. That's been the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
Is like trying to restrain myself on buying everything. And when you did the show, when was that? I don't think I caught the year.
I honestly don't remember. It might have been 2018.
Okay. So it was like pre-COVID then.
It was definitely pre-COVID.
Okay. And then you did research for a year. How did you do like the research? Like were there certain people you looked into, or how did you do that?
So mostly it was just researching online and Facebook groups. Like instead of just aimlessly scrolling Facebook, I would just scroll these reptile groups, learning about care and morphs. A lot of it was learning to try and be able to decipher what morphs were
Mm.
what,
Hmm.
being able to figure out, okay, it's still a pied even though there's no white. It's just a no white pied. And
Yeah.
like, trying to be able to guess what the combo was. And then also podcasts. So when I was an engineer, I was a designer sitting at a desk doing a lot of design work on the computer. And so I could listen to podcasts the entire time I was working. And so I would just put in different podcasts, really anything I could find, and just listen to other people talk about it and just learn that way.
Yeah. That's how I did a lot of my learning too. I've been in it for about a year, and I still am so addicted to the podcast, especially the trap talk. I don't know why. I just like the style of it. And now we have like the network where we're doing something every single day over multiple species, monitors. We highlight the females on here. We have new breeder on the block, colubrids. So it's trying to involve multiple species to learn. Because yeah, that's how I learned the best, was from other people, their experiences. And yeah, and my job is right now more of like PhD. So I'm doing experiments or in the lab, and I can listen to them like all day, unless I'm like in a meeting or something like that. But it's not every day. Yeah, the joys of not having to like, focus on something or be in a meeting all day. It gives me the freedom to listen to stuff.
That's awesome.
So, were there any podcasts that you listened to that you thought gave good information? I mean, did you listen to Trap Talk?
So honestly, I don't think Trap Talk was even a thing when I originally was listening.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, I found Trap Talk, and it had already been on for a little while. And then I'll be honest, it's kind of the only one I've been listening to since. But
oh, you people in the chat, that's what's up.
yes. The number of podcasts that came out was incredibly helpful, because a lot of other shows would do one a week, one every other week, and maybe it's an hour, maybe it's two. But when I was working like 50-hour weeks, I could crush through some episodes. So yes, I listened. Once I discovered the Trap Talk, I listened to quite a few.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's done a lot for me, joining it and being part of the network now, and being tapped in with everybody in the Patreon group, and then the network, so to speak, has been kind of really life-changing for me, if I'm going to be honest, kind of last year, and it's only going to get bigger and better. So I'm really excited for what comes out. But yeah, highlight Trap Talk a little bit. Is what got me excited. I was super pumped to listen
Yeah,
to those first. I was like such in awe. I was like, man, MJ's like the coolest out there. Now I'm like talking to her on the phone like every day. It's like totally crazy where it was a year ago and how fast things move. And it sounded like you bred your animals fairly quickly. You bought like adults, or how'd that go?
I did. I bought proven adults from a guy that was actually going to be moving to Hawaii. And so you can't take snakes to Hawaii. So he had to sell they were essentially his pets, and they were just normal het pieds, and they had accidentally gotten together one time and bred, and he had some eggs. So he's like, I at least know they're actual het pieds. And I purchased them from him, and I actually think it was just one male and two females, and just kept them for probably 6 months just to make sure, like, yeah, I can get the husbandry down, I can get the feeding down, make sure everyone's good, before I even was like, okay, I think I'll try and like breed when the fall rolls around.
Okay. So you kind of got them in the springtime. Because yeah, there's some I know breeders who have been doing it for a little bit kind of like talk against buying like proven adults. They think it's better to like buy babies or maybe sub-adults and grow them up. I also went the route of like buying proven stuff and was pretty lucky. Like this is my first year and I got 4 out of the 5 girls to go. So it worked out well for me. Sounded like it went well for you. Was there anything you did that you think looking back on it now that helped you with that success?
So I really went into it going, we're just gonna try and see what happens. If they don't go, no big deal. I just paired them once a month for probably 4 months and made sure they both had a couple locks. And then I was like, all right, I'll just let them do their thing and just keep feeding them and keep my husbandry as best as I can.
Hmm.
And they went.
Yeah. Ball pythons, they say they're easy. They really are easy.
Yeah.
I feel like people make them more complicated than they are. I mean, if they're gonna go, they're gonna go type of thing. I mean, you can always like do the ultrasound and like double check. I kind of like quote unquote cheated. I kind of used that, I guess, my first year, like seeing where things were kind of at. But I like learning the animal's behavior too. Did you notice them like bull wrapping or any sort of signs like that? Okay.
I did. I noticed them start to bull wrap and sit on like one side more often than they would sit on the other side.
Mm.
And then I saw one of the girls ovulate, which was really fun. I was like, why do you look so incredibly large? Are you about to explode? And then I hopped on all the pages and Facebook and started Googling, and I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, this is working. This is perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can remember my first one as well. Like in the beginning, I would send pictures, would be like, is this it? Or is this it? And they'd be like, Krista, no. Like, first ball python breeder problems are like, you will have no question whether she is or not. And then since then, once you see one, you're like, okay, then you definitely like, no. And that's like the hardest part of it. I know Marcus, I think it's Marcus Jane, has a really nice pictorial with like pictures of like the whole process. So I kind of like memorized that and looked at those pictures. So I thought that was pretty helpful for me learning essentially.
Yes.
So.
And I know you were talking about kind of cheating a little bit. 2 years ago, I got an ultrasound machine and I love it. I use it for my snakes, honestly, just for fun. And then I've also got miniature goats and I breed them as well. So I got the 2 different wands. One, the linear probe for the snakes and the convex probe for the goats. And it's my favorite thing ever.
I'm looking at, I don't know if I'll do it this year. I kind of the first year borrowed it from work a couple times, but I don't want to like keep doing it, obviously. So I may buy my own at point. I don't know about this year or next year, but what brand did you buy?
I want to say it's
Is it the one on Amazon? The pretty popular one? The 1300 one, or well, maybe it was
probably
different when you bought it.
I didn't buy it off of Amazon. I bought it from their actual website, but it probably is on Amazon because I bought it with 2 probes instead of just the one. So I think mine was closer to like 1800 for the ultrasound and the dual probes.
Okay. Yeah. I think there are a lot of different brands out there. I think the one was like Convex maybe or Convecta. I can't remember. It was a C one though. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
But it has really nice images.
It just takes like the guessing out of all of it. Like now that I've used it, I'm kind of like, I really like want to get one to use it, even though, some of the older birds are like, you guys should learn, the behavior and all that stuff. But it's so nice to take the guess out of it where you're like sitting there like, is she developing? Is she not? Because for my first year, mine didn't never bolt wrap at all. Like I would use the ultrasound. I was like, holy cow, you're like at 20 millimeters. Like I would have absolutely no idea. You're acting kind of the same. Then once they ovulate, of course, they sit in the back and are like on heat. But before that, I could never really tell a difference with mine. So the ultrasound would be like, oh, wow. Okay. You're like almost there. And I would have never known.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it helps save your males too. I mean, I'm not at that kind of part. Like I don't have males going to a ton of females. That's why I could probably get by without using one, but it's just a lot more guessing to it at that point. I don't know if I like that. So yeah.
I agree. It's helpful. You don't need it, but it is helpful and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, being able to see and measure. I'm sure the goats are like a lot of fun with that too.
The goats were so much fun, but I did have to have someone like hold them down and wrestle them as I'm like trying to ultrasound them. But we were able to get a count on the goats, which was awesome. And getting to see the little babies like kick and squirm and move. It was really cool.
That's super cool. And also like super helpful too, just because they do have multiple to know like in the birthing process, okay, how many more do they have to go? Or like it was such a nightmare in vet school having people like bring their pregnant goats and then having like 3 legs out and trying to tell which leg went to like which baby. They have no idea how many babies they got. So then you have to, yeah, it was just like a huge thing. So it takes the guessing out of it.
Yes.
And that's like, I remember like reaching in there being like, okay, this leg is to this go. This, I did not want to do farm animal after dealing with that. Nope. Nope. This is too much stress.
Yeah. We had a couple of traumatic births last year. So one goat, I was coming out every 2 hours to check. And I guess I had just missed it on the last time I came out. But when I came out for my next check, the baby was on the ground, cold, seemingly lifeless. Mama was still just tending to herself and not the baby. And I mean, there's a saying in, I think particularly like vet med, nothing's dead until it's warm and dead.
Yeah.
And we took the baby inside, and for 3 hours, my husband like snuggled the baby, hair dryer. My husband's like a walking space heater. So he snuggled the baby and like a hair dryer and towels. And we brought that thing back, and he did fantastic. And I actually have a picture somewhere. I brought the mom goat and the baby goat, and they lived in my bathroom with hay all over the floor for the first like 48 hours of his life.
That's awesome. Baby goats are so cute. And yeah, that is definitely the saying. They're not dead unless they're like warm and dead for sure. Yeah, I had a lot of memories growing up as a kid on a farm in Indiana. It can get super cold, so we always had calves and stuff. Usually we were pretty good about bringing them in the spring, but we always had the occasional one. And they did okay in the barn. My dad was not so set on bringing them into the house, so we did like the barn thing, and ended up being fine. But I know I begged and begged to be brought into the house, and he was like, "They'll be fine in the barn." They ended up being fine, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got miniature goats, so it's a little bit easier than a whole cow.
That's true. And yeah, usually the ones that have issues are like 100 pounds and just like massive. So yeah, but no, that brings a lot of memories. When I was a kid, I had to go out there every couple hours and check, and I wanted to be a vet. So my dad was like, instead of calling the vet, sometimes I would be the one to put the chains on and crank it out. And that was also not super fun. To check. You have you used the chains on your goats?
No, I think I would break them if just arm power is plenty.
Yeah, they're not super. I feel like in school I don't think we had to almost. Some farm, like we would go out to farms too, and some of them had like miniature chains, not the cow ones obviously, but for real like more your show, like your meatier goats, your big ones, they just have too big of shoulders to get through type of thing. But yeah, it was always a fun thing. What would we do? We had like a 4-wheeler or something, so we would like put the chains on the 4-wheeler and drive it. So I could
goat?
No, not for a goat, cow.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Heck no, not goat. I break that thing. No, it was a cow. I couldn't get it with the the regular pole. So I was like, all right, what can I do? So get the 4-wheeler. I think it was a 4-wheeler. I forget, a mule. I think it was a mule we had, and yeah, I would tie it on there, and then
Wow.
so yeah, some of these cows are big. You gotta do what you gotta do.
I
So
know.
the joys of farm life. But a lot of those skills I feel like transition into the reptile world too, with the work ethic and stuff.
They do. And just getting to notice like animal habits, and honestly just checking poop. Does the poop look normal? Is this a good poop? Is this a sick poop? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of universal aspects of animals and husbandry, just slightly different depending on the species.
Yeah. I think that's why I kind of just, for me, took it up so easily too, because I've been around animals all my life. So it just kind of picked up, or was like almost like natural for me. But like people who don't have like an animal background getting into this, I feel like would be kind of difficult. I mean, they learn eventually, but I don't know. For me, it was just kind of second nature, kind of being around animals before this all the time.
Yeah.
So, oh, Emilio popped in. We'll talk about him a little bit later. What's up? Yeah, we'll talk about him a little, maybe a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. When did you start really like accumulating animals? Was that pretty soon after that first clutch, or kind of take us through that and what projects you're kind of working into now?
Yeah. So the one kind of rule my husband kind of asked of me is that we set up a reptile account, and whatever I make, I can put back into the reptiles. And if I need to, I can pull from our regular account, but to do my best to kind of keep it separate and let it grow itself. And I've done pretty well. The building was a bit outside of that.
Yeah.
But that being said, I've grown kind of slow and steady. So after I sold those first couple babies, I was able to then buy a couple of nicer animals. And one of the first like big purchases that I bought was actually from Emilio. So I was on MORPH Market looking around, and the Exanthic pieds were the ones that were like my dream animal.
Cool.
And clearly a head-to-head pied clutch isn't gonna produce enough money off of those babies to go and straight buy Exanthic pied. So I saw Emilio's page, and he had a male Exanthic het pied. And I was looking at his reviews, and I was like going back and forth. And so I just reached out and messaged him, and I asked him probably way too many questions. And he was so kind and responding to all of them. And I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and I think it was, I honestly don't even remember how much it was now. I think it was like $500. It was a long time ago for that animal. And I was so nervous. It was like the first animal I had shipped. And he was like, don't worry, it will arrive and it will be perfect. And when I got it, I was blown away. I had a little albino female, and I put like the albino next to the Exanthic, and they just both glowed. Just seeing that difference, that bright yellow and that like pale gray. So cool. And so then I grew him up and started collecting a couple more along the way. And then was able to sell my homemade rack and got a slightly better rack, made a couple more, made some improvements on those racks. And then a few years down the road, I bought my next like big purchases from Emilio. I went ahead and bought my dream lightning pied from Emilio, and I bought my lavender pied from Emilio. And I bought those in one go, And boy, I was nervous when that box was shipping.
Yep, I can imagine.
Yes. And so I'm currently working on a lot of double recessive projects, and Xanthic and Pied are definitely some of the main projects.
Very cool. Very cool. I think the example they're just super pretty with the silver black and then that contrast with the white. So yeah, for pies, I would say that I that's on the top for me. What hey, did you do much research into like the different lines of Xanthic, or like what made you go the VPI route versus like the other ones?
So I didn't do a ton of research into it, but VPI seemed to be what most people had. And based on the pictures of the animals that were available, it looked really good. And I looked up some adults, and from what I was finding online, they looked really nice still. And a lot of the other lines were really expensive because there weren't many of them. And again, just trying to stay within that budget,
Mm.
I was like, this makes the most sense for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep. I think that makes total sense. And you, a lot of people have the VPI, so there's a lot more out there. And some, because of that, there are, I feel like some individuals that don't look as good. And so some people are like, oh, like MJ is a lot better, or GCR is a lot better. They look better. And I'm like, well, there's not a ton out there. They haven't been bred as wide as VPI. So, I mean, I think there is definitely a sort of line breeding to it essentially. So if you buy, the best looking ones and kind of breed those with that line, then you're going to get better looking ones that maybe say didn't have that. So it doesn't give them as good as like a look. And like shout out to Emilio, he has the best Xanthics I know. He's been doing it for, so long, and it really shows animals are top quality. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you got a good purchase there with them and your Xanthic stuff. I was looking some on Instagram too. It looks really, really nice, and the quality shows. And I think that ultimately that's going to play a big role, as people are looking to buy, they're going to buy with their eyes. And if they can tell a difference, they're going to buy the better looking one over the not as good looking one. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pied was definitely my kind of favorite getting into it as well. What kind of codoms are you wanting to put in your Pied projects? Just because it is a hard project, I think, because there's a lot of things that can make it white. So you're trying to like
Yeah.
not as white. So
I tend to really like the projects where someone who doesn't know anything about reptiles is able to walk up and go, whoa, what the heck is that? I don't know anything about snakes, but I know that's not normal. So I like to make the dark pieds with I've got a female that's mahogany pied and a mahogany pied male that I'm hoping to breed together. And then I've got some black pastel pieds that turned out really cool, just like really dark pieds, but still have a little bit of pattern. And then also the albino. So just really bright and bold lavender albino and regular albino. Um, just a lot of things that make it go, okay, that's different.
yeah. Yeah, I think we lose kind of sight of that too when we're like putting all these genes in and like I don't know, getting into it. I always thought, okay, I need to like stack as many, incomplete dominants. But it's more of like cooking. I feel like you kind of got to be careful of what you put in there because they react differently, and you got to think about,
Yes.
steps ahead and what you would theoretically get and what you would breed that to. That's what I like the most about it, is like the planning part of it and like the strategic part of it too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
So I had one clutch, an Xanthic pied clutch this year. The mom was a pinstripe leopard lesser Xanthic het pied, and then bred to my double visual Xanthic pied male. And the one combo I didn't want to hit was lesser with pied. And of course I got it. So she's an all white, beautiful snake. And by the pairing, she is also a visual exanthic, but she's all white. And
Mm-hmm.
dang it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Beautiful, but not what I had hoped for. I also got like a pinstripe exanthic pied, which I love in that clutch.
Pinstripe does look nice and pied. It kind of breaks up. It definitely adds like the pattern. It kind of breaks up the saddles and gives it an interesting look. But yeah, I've heard with the lesser and the pied, it's like there's so much. I want to say hate. Like pastel gets like a lot of hate, but like sometimes they do. Because they'll make white. And, for a pie, it's not like super ideal, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And if you're working specifically on a budget, and kind of restrict yourself, then that can happen. I think so too as well. But
and I know listening to like some of these podcasts, a lot of times when I was first starting out, I would be a little disheartened by people coming in and being like, my first snake, I spent like $5,000 on this animal, and I spent thousands on this, hundreds on that. And I would just listen and I would be like, wow, am I ever going to actually be able to like produce anything worthwhile? But you definitely can. It just takes time and you got to work for it. A lot of people like to, I'll just call it a shortcut, and spend a lot of money up front and buy a lot of animals, and then they burn out. You see that fairly often. A lot of people come in with buying some really top quality animals, but then they get overwhelmed because they don't take their time to actually learn the animals and learn how to keep up with them. We had a breeder here who did something similar, and it went downhill fairly quickly. Probably within 2 years, they had a massive collection, and most of the animals ended up dying just because they got completely overwhelmed and just weren't able to take care of them anymore. But they had some incredible projects and animals, and you just got to be able to know what you're able to manage.
Yep. I think that's super, super important. I probably, looking back at it now, I've spent a lot of money on some of these animals. And I'm kind of looking back at it now, changing, because I came in and seeing like, oh, you got to do like the triples and the quads. So that was kind of my plan. And I didn't have like a ton of, well, I mean, I didn't think, but looking back, yeah, I probably had too many. But like every project was like a triple or a quad or quint or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of restructuring things a little bit now where I'm more kind of focused on the double. And then once I work that project pretty well, then kind of working it into the triple, or maybe doing one triple for a pairing, if that makes sense. Like trying to pair to where you get at least a visual out of it and not making so much like byproduct. I think that is kind of important as new people, as we're gaining like customers and trying to shoot for these projects, but also being worried about all the byproduct we're making and having that hard to sell that, especially in this kind of economy.
Absolutely. And I think that's where shed testing is now a huge benefit.
Yep. It will allow you to do, because that's what I'm doing. Like I have an ultramale het sunset male, and so I'm pairing him to like a bunch of ultramale females, so that everything's ultramale, which is like a pretty, pet. Like if I miss on the sunset, it's still visually appealing to somebody, and then I can test for the sunset and then keep those back. So allows people like us to have a chance.
Absolutely.
Like we couldn't do this without shed testing. I have to shout out RGI because they are the channel sponsor for shed testing. But yeah, couldn't do it with, I don't know how people did. They just kept everything back, I guess.
yeah, keep it back, feed it up, breed it, and hope and pray it proves out.
Yeah, and I think the shed it just helps you keep less animals, less to feed, less to keep in that standpoint. But the caveat of that is like a lot of byproduct because I see a lot of people still shooting for the triples and the quads, knowing that we have shed testing, which isn't like a bad idea, but you're still going to have like a lot of byproduct as well, in my
You'll,
opinion.
I mean, either way, you'll have a lot of byproduct, and at least shed testing, you're going to keep back the one that tested positive for all the heads versus keeping back all 6 and breeding all
True.
6.
True. Yep. I think, yep, over time it will help us to be a little bit more refined in our projects and not having like so many animals. Um, what you said about 30, 40 adults, how many clutches are you wanting to do this year? And has that changed with like the market and what you've done in the past?
So this past year, my I had my, well, I guess it's been 2 years now. Um, we had our job change where I now manage the zip line instead of
Mm,
being an engineer.
mm,
And we built the building, and anticipating for building the building, I didn't pair nearly as much as I did. And yet I had more clutches than I had in the past.
mm.
I was hoping to not quite have as many as I did this year. I've got 15 just because I didn't want to move that many animals over and try and like juggle having animals in split places. And I mean, I ended up having 15, and timing actually worked out really well. I was able to hatch everything and establish it at my old place before I had to move everything out and to
Nice.
the building.
Nice.
Because I was a little worried about that I would get stuck with a gravid female that I would have to move, or even worse, come to see that she laid and my incubators had to get their place.
Mm,
But timing actually worked out really well. This next year, I am probably going to be a bit more intentional about not breeding quite as many, just because I originally started heavily breeding at the peak of COVID
mm.
and was a little spoiled by how easy it was to sell. And I've been doing really well since, but the market is a bit oversaturated at the moment. And so I don't have to breed these animals, and I'm just going to be a little more picky about what I pair this year, not just throwing animals together because I have them.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of a point in time I've kind of taken too. Like if I'm not gonna hold anything back from it, then I don't have any I don't have any desire to breed the animal. Um, it's interesting with the COVID too and the change. What sort of things have you implemented in the down market to kind of help sell versus in COVID it was pretty easy. Is there any new things you've tried or?
Um, Having an account on Morph Market has made a world of difference. So before COVID, Facebook wasn't quite as strict about animal sales,
Mm.
and I was able to move. I mean, so many people were coming out of the woodwork to buy ball pythons, and so I was able to post an animal on like Facebook and groups or just on my page, and I was able to sell it that way. And then with COVID wrapping up, just having a good Morph Market account, building those reviews, having better quality photos, and then being able to fill in a lot of the information. Like you're able to see pictures of parents and pictures of the other offspring in that clutch. It's been very helpful.
Yeah, and big shout out to Morph Market. Yeah, I won't say too much about them right now, but stuff will be coming out. But yes, they are, no one can touch Morph Market. I mean, the shipping. Have you used the Morph Market shipping at all?
Oh, absolutely. And
Talk about that. It's
love.
fantastic.
Yes. I am so in love. I am incredibly grateful for their decision to be able to discount the rates as much as they have. because they didn't have to. They could have been like every other shipping company out there, and they could be making a lot more off of this. But honestly, being able to set a set shipping rate on an animal and set it at like $50 instead of like 75 or even 100 for bigger animals has made a world of a difference. Like even me just looking to purchase another animal, when I see that like $100 shipping, I'm like, oh, really? Really? But $50, even though it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, to a buyer, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. When it's so competitive as it is, it's a huge mental thing too. You know, 100. I kind of mark in mine where I have stuff for free shipping, but I was able to like drop, you know, the prices on them due to shipping now because I'm not having that price like, you know, included or whatever. So it's been a huge, it's just like amazing the difference. Like I think the max amount takes for me to ship like a 12x9x6 box was like $54 to either California. I'm in Missouri, so California, and I think I did Maine. It was like 54 bucks, which I mean, if you're a big guy and you're getting like these rates anyways, it may not notice, but I still know big breeders like saving like literally thousands of dollars like by the month through this. And I understand like why not save money, like, you know, better off green. I'll say that. I mean, starting out is super important. Like if I can save, I don't know how much I've saved, but I bet it's like, I don't know, $200 or $300. I mean, that's like rodent food. That's like a new animal. That's, you know, that's bedding. That's a lot every month, especially for us just starting out.
And all those savings will just go straight back into the reptile community anyways.
Preach. Like people don't realize like we are addicted to this stuff. Like any money I earn, where do you think it's going? It's going
straight back into the animals.
Yeah. So like I mean, MORPH market is crazy. They're crazy smart for this, for, you know, lowering the shipping, knowing that us fools addicted to this is just going to spend that money right back and buy an animal and like help. And like with the down economy, like we kind of need that because we're kind of struggling sort of at that pyramid base with getting the pet people to come in, because then it works itself up. We sell to the pet people, money we make, we can invest into a higher animal. Okay, it helps those people, and then it goes up. So when you struggle at the base level, everybody above is gonna struggle.
I know. When I'm vending at shows and someone buys their first like ball python from me, as they're leaving, I'm like, bye. Welcome to the addiction.
I mean, it is. You have to be. I feel like it's a better addiction. Certainly better than like doing drugs and all of that. But it can be hard too, like with your money. But overall, I think it's a good addiction as long as you can keep it relatively in check. I'm trying to do that myself as I'm kind of restructuring things. Like really, I've been saying this for like 6 months too, like coming down to the wire. Like, okay, I have a couple animals left and then I'm done. I keep saying that, but it keeps, you know, but I've restructured and I'm selling stuff. So it kind of like, you know, it'll write itself out. But being careful what you talked about too and kind of slowly going into it, I think is really, really important. Yeah, something I'm trying to do myself too, and try not to buy a ton of animals and get burnt out from it. So, but yeah, MORPH market shipping. Love MORPH market shipping. Yeah, and MORPH market in general. So really just posting on MORPH market, circling back to my original question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I've moved most of mine. I mean, I do leopard geckos too, and I've done okay at some shows, but yeah, the MORPH market is where I seem to move most of the leopard geckos this is my second year doing that. This is my first year doing ball pythons. I've been able to sell some at shows and some at MORPH market. I don't have maybe like 10, so not like a lot of animals to sell, but yeah, I don't think another kind of company out there will touch MORPH market.
No, not anytime soon.
Anytime soon, yeah. And what are your thoughts on like the auctions too? Have you used that at all?
I have. So I actually like the auctions. I think when you go to list an animal in the auctions, you have to have the expectations that it's probably going to go for way below value, unless you happen to find that one person that has been looking for that exact animal and they happen to look within that 1 to 3 day window. I had just a couple of stragglers from the past year that I was able to list as a group, and they didn't sell for a whole lot, but they went to a new home that is excited to start working on some of those projects, and I don't have to feed them anymore, and it frees up space for the animals that I do want to keep. So I love the auctions. I think they are essential to just keep animals moving, but you have to go into it with the understanding that it's an auction. You're not going to get top dollar for that animal.
Right. Yeah. I think if people have that expectation, I've thoroughly enjoyed them. I've bought stuff on there and I've also sold stuff on there. Yeah, I like it. I think it's as long as you have the expectation of that it's going to go for, I don't know, 50, 60% of marketplace. But I think it kind of tells you where the market's at to a little bit of a degree. Sort of. I mean, it's lower than probably what it should go for just based because not a lot of people are seeing it. It's kind of in the moment, short time period, but at least I think it gauges how some projects are maybe a little more, I don't know, higher than some other ones, and it kind of brings you down to earth a little bit with some people having COVID prices still listed on
Yeah.
I've always done pretty well with like not having a reserve or a starting bid. Like whenever I do a starting bid, even though it's low, like I get like no bids. But if I do no starting bid, then it usually goes above that starting bid anyway. So it's like kind of crazy how that happens. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been pretty happy with them. So let me check the chat before I see any questions. Because yeah, I want to spend the last time talking about scaleless corn snakes and your mystery project. So yeah, we'll kind of get into that. So yeah, tell me what got into scaleless corn snakes.
So honestly, I was at another show and I saw my first scaleless snake and I was like, whoa. Okay, so I didn't even realize that that could be a thing. And when I saw it, I was like, what is wrong with that animal? Like, what type of disease does it have? And then again, I just talked to the breeder and I already had a corn snake and I was like, is the care any different? And he's like, no, not really. And I was like, can I buy it? And he's like, yeah, it's for sale. And so I ended up taking it home, and his name is Joker, and he was supposed to be like a regular scaleless corn snake, but I actually brought him over from my reptile building. I'll pull him out.
Yeah, sure. Awesome.
But most of the like scaleless corns are a bit more red, and he is much more black and white.
All right. Oh, so, cool! Look at that.
A lot of people ask, like, why does he look like a cow? And I'm like, I don't think he looks like a cow. He's just got kind of like black and white patches. When he goes to shed, it's almost like pink.
Yeah.
And I love him. His white skin is almost translucent. And underneath it, you can see his muscle. And his muscle is actually colored. And it's colored differently than his like actual pattern on his back. You can move his skin and see like the speckled muscle underneath, which is
wow. That's crazy. I think it looks like a cow, like a dairy cow, a big old. I don't know. I'm forgetting the name of the black and white ones, but yeah.
And he's a little more opinionated than like my ball pythons. I am definitely his person. I'll bring him out for like educational shows and whatnot at the zipline park, and he'll be chilling with me, totally fine with me. I'll go to pass him off to like another staff member or something, and he'll get fussy and he'll start coiling back and he'll puff his little head up and then I'll take him back and he just relaxes.
Huh.
And I'm like, you opinionated little dude. Like, what the heck?
That's
I am
that's
your
fascinating though. That he know. I mean, these animals aren't stupid, but it's still like I don't know, really cool that they're able to associate you with being their person versus somebody else's. It's really
yeah.
cool.
He's really a pretty amazing snake, and he has so much personality, which I don't always see from the ball pythons.
Yeah, that's absolutely stunning. And that's just a scaleless corn snake, and they get that. I guess I didn't realize they got that big.
Yeah, he's fairly sizable. He's probably like 3 feet long. I don't know that I've ever stretched him out to measure him.
Huh.
But he has some really symmetrical like scales on his face.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's cool.
And almost every single time I pull him out, people ask, how many eyes does he have?
Yeah.
Just two. Just two.
Just two.
But
Yeah,
his
it looks
belly-
kind of like a spider. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, look at the belly on that.
His belly starts off white. I'm trying to see if you can.
Oh wow.
White. And then as it gets to the tail, it's like black.
Yeah, look at that.
And it just like transitions and fades. He's super cool. So he was my inspiration for starting my Scaleless project. And almost every educational show or talk with people that don't know anything about reptiles, I always bring him out. Because even if people are terrified of snakes and like plastered against the back of the wall, when I pull him out and say he's a scaleless snake, people are like, wait, what? And they get a little bit closer. And I'm like, would you like to touch him? And they're like, oh, no, no, no. And as I start talking, I was like, he's really soft and he's really smooth. They're like, okay, maybe I'll just like poke him. And then like by the end of it, they're like, whoa, this is so cool. And I'm able to like really bridge that gap and be like, these aren't just like terrifying creatures. They are beautifully made and really amazing animals.
It's just stunning. It's really stunning. I see why you like that one too, because you're into the exanthic stuff. And
he, as far as I know, he wasn't supposed to end up like this. He was supposed to be kind of like red.
huh.
And no one's been able to tell me why he faded like this, but I'm going to breed him and see if I can figure out.
Yeah.
So I've
Super
got
cool.
an albino scaleless. I've got an anatharistic scaleless. And then I have a normal scaleless female. And then I've got some het females. And I'm going to try the scaleless to scaleless. I'm going to try the scaleless to het. I've had people say that the quality isn't as good when you try scaleless to scaleless, but I'm going to try it and see.
Okay. So the females can still breed scaleless because the ball pythons, they can't, right?
I really haven't looked into ball pythons because scaleless ball pythons are a bit too high maintenance for me.
Okay. That's what I kind of was going to ask about too. Yeah. High maintenance. And I've heard it termed as like a dead end project. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but I think that's like the female like can't breed or something. So you can only like, I don't know. And somebody, if they know better, I haven't looked into it myself because I just wasn't interested in it because I've heard the kind of controversy. But so these guys are not any different than a regular corn snake. I'm hearing.
No, they do like husbandry wise, they do just the same. Every now and then I might give him a little more humidity right when he's about to shed, but that's honestly about it.
That's super cool.
Since they still have their belly scales, they can still climb, and
Okay.
these guys are doing fine out in the wild. Granted, not often, but they have found them. But yeah, so he's amazing, and I love to use him for all of my educational stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really cool to have an animal like that to bring people in. I mean, that's, like I said, I talk about bringing new people in to like that base level of the pyramid. And it, starts with having animals kind of like that. Oh, Brandon kind of commented he knows more than me. Yeah. Scaleless ball pythons just don't seem to thrive well and can't seem to off. Okay. Yeah. So I thought it was like a female kind of issue. Yeah, scaleless corns and rats are awesome. Yeah, that thing is really, really cool. I forget the specific kind, but I really like this corn snake. It's like a red cherry like on the top, but then it's got like high white sides. I
Oh,
forget.
palmetto.
Not the palmetto, though. I like those are cool. Those are like the little sprinkly ones. This one's like
Yeah.
this fire engine red, like mostly on the top, and then like it's got like really like it looks like a candy cane, sort of. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the type. It's like a high white. Somebody probably comment there. I just heard about it a few weeks ago, but
Yeah. I really haven't gotten into all of the corn snake morphs yet. I'm mostly just interested in breeding Joker and seeing if I can figure out what he is and if I put him to other morphs, how that's going to affect it. But it's a new project. My girls are still pretty young, so it'll be a couple of years.
Okay. So they're like kind of similar breeding time frame as the balls, a couple years, and you have I don't know anything about Clubrid, so I'm gonna be naive here, but you like brumate them, is that correct?
Yes. So for the first like 2 years, I don't. I just feed them year round, and then once they get a little bit bigger, I'll start cooling them off in the winter, and then bringing them back up in the spring.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I see why like that guy is just flipping awesome. Okay, Brittany, yeah. Pied-sided blood red. Yep. That's the kind that I was like, if I was ever gonna do Clubrids. I like those in like the California red-sided garter snakes too.
Yes, those are so pretty.
So cool. I like the the blue Baron's Racer as well. Just like the turquoise color. It's like my favorite color, but
yeah. Well, I know we are running short on time, but I did want to bring up my mystery snake.
Yeah.
So I have an Axanthic clown male who bred. I purchased an adult het Axanthic female. The breeder swore she had never been paired before. Honestly, he had just kind of been feeding her and forgetting about her and just sold her to me. I paired the two, and out of the pairing, I should have only gotten Axanthic het clowns and double hets. And this thing popped out. So for those of you who aren't able to look, he's like pretty darn close to solid black with like a brown stripe and slight brown patterning along the sides. And I shed tested him just a few weeks ago. Shout out to RGI. And I did the 30 panel test with an additional chocolate and GHI. He came back negative for everything except he is het Axanthic and he is het clown. So the dad is the dad. I mean, I can't imagine the other breeder would just happen to pair something that had clown.
What was the pairing again?
Axanthic clown to het Axanthic.
Axanthic.
Yep.
Okay, and the mom is just looks like a normal. Have you tested the mom at all?
No, I didn't. Because I don't have her anymore.
Okay.
After her second clutch this year, she ruptured while she was laying. And so she passed away right after she laid her eggs, which really sucked. But he is the dad of those eggs, and there were 8 babies, and they all hatched, and they're all doing perfectly. But all of the babies are either Axanthic or normal. So
his babies don't look anything like him besides being Axanthic, and he's het Axanthic, so.
Correct. So I also have his sister that should be breeding size this upcoming year, who's Axanthic, but also a very like dark Axanthic. She's beautiful. She's held her color really well. So I'm thinking there's something funky with her too. So he's either a fluke or he's something recessive or I mean, I don't know.
It's really strange. It kind of looks like when I first brought him out, I thought about it like a Cypress red stripe combo. Like, you know, the Cypress red stripe clowns, they kind of like have that similar color, and they usually have like a stripe on the back, kind of like him. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, when you first
And
brought it up, I immediately thought, and I'm still new to listening to Morph, so that could be completely off. But I was thinking Cypress, like, I don't know, just what I just thought it looked like. But yeah.
yeah, and that 30 panel doesn't cover everything. So I
Mm-hmm.
have more that I need to try and test him for. But like
Yeah.
none of his babies were visually
Yeah.
crazy. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, it's probably either a fluke or something that we haven't seen yet, and it could be a recessive. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's super cool. And he was like that as a baby. It's not like he changed over time.
Nope. He
Hmm.
came out super dark. And in that clutch, there was an axanthic version of him. That baby just didn't make it. It was severely deformed. And that was like the one clutch that I had with a couple babies that just didn't look quite right.
So I'm wondering if he maybe like beat the odds, because I have heard some people say too, like they get like a wild looking baby, it doesn't like make it because something genetically is just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of um, out of whack with them. So maybe he just, did the was able to survive when genetic. I don't know. It's really and I'm so new. I wouldn't know really what to think, but sounds like maybe something hidden in there or just some fluke thing that happened genetically that's not like phenotypic, but not like passed on to like
Yeah.
progeny.
And I know there have been some really cool animals that have just been flukes or they haven't been able to prove out. Like I think the stormtrooper is one, like
Okay.
super cool pattern, but I don't think he's ever been able to reproduce it.
Yeah, I don't think so either because I think that animal was a female, if I'm correct. So I don't know if he's gone her to breed or not. But yeah, kind of reminds me of like the chimera stuff too, where visually it's cool, but it's not like genetic. So that's what I would think. That may be just like a total high body chimera. I don't know.
I know. I'm really not sure what to think at this point. I was really hoping the shed test would give me some like action.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of back at square one. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm going to breed him hopefully to his sister this year and keep the babies and see if there's something potentially recessive and any of his babies produced anything crazy. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, yeah, we talked about shed testing being helpful, but in this situation, not everything is fixed by just shed testing it. So that's a cool mystery project to do it the old school way and hold everything back and breed it back together when they had to do with recessives in the old days without shed testing.
know. And when he first hatched, I had reached out to Bob Vu and I was like, hey, because I had met him like once at a show and he was also fantastic and super kind.
Yep.
I was like, hey, do you have any clue what the heck might have been? And he's like, not really, but do you want to sell it?
Of course, he said that. Of course.
And I went back to look at those messages, and that was on his old account before his Facebook got hacked and he had to wipe it.
Yeah.
And so messages disappeared. But I'm like, man, I probably should have taken him up on it.
Yeah. I wonder how much he would like. I mean, I might have depending on the price, but
I know.
Super cool. Bob's super, yeah, shout out to Bob too. He's a real one in the game for sure. I've always liked talking to him and really speaks to you as a human being, doesn't act like he's all that or better than anybody else. He really cares about people, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I'm seeing it. People in the chat, so I'll kind of bring up. I am not seeing any like questions or anything, but yeah. What I'll do for down the line. Yeah. I think it'd be really cool when you breed the progeny back and just see what's going on.
I'm super excited to find out. I'm really hoping he's not just a fluke, but just kind of trying to reserve my excitement just in case.
Yeah. Does the panel test for Cyprus or no?
I'm on my phone doing this right now, so I can't pull it up because I don't want to accidentally get logged out.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it did.
Yeah, probably. Like I said, probably not if you can't see it in the parents or whatever. But I don't know. Looks like a Cypress kind of red stripe combo to me, but probably not it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what it can remind me of. Oh, my little orange cat. He's my favorite. I try not to say I have favorites, but that cat, I really love that cat. But he loves my leopard geckos, so I have to keep him away from them. So yeah, so we're coming up on almost an hour and a half. Got about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so before I start kind of wrapping things up. It's been a really fantastic episode. We've talked about so much, and I feel like definitely hit what we wanted to. Was there anything I didn't ask that you want to talk about? We talked about Emilio. I didn't know if you want to talk any more about that or not, but
yeah, I think we really hit everything. Is Emilio still on? I can't see.
I don't know. I can't see who is on or not, but yeah, I don't know. He can replay it. So if you want to say,
I was just gonna say, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I'm in town, and I leave in like 2 hours. Can we meet up?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm out of town this weekend. You have to give me a heads up."
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I would love to, but I'm at a reptile show. Like, little heads up.
Little heads up. Yeah. I'll reach out to them after this episode and see if they watch this part or not. Maybe they'll comment if he's still listening. I don't know. He goes to bed kind of early, so he may not be.
Well, that's fair. Typically, I do too.
Yeah, that's why I wrap up. If you have, yeah, appreciate you coming on and spend some time with us. But yeah, Milo's awesome. Like I said, I met him in Daytona. Has become an older kind of brother to me. I would say I'm close to a few select people, and he's one of them for sure. He's a real one. He's had a lot of experience in the game. He's seen a lot of stuff. He does this full time. Not a lot of people do that, so he's had to have certainly some success in order to get to where he's at. You know, not everybody has that sort of success, and being able to help you with your first big purchases is a lot. So
yeah. And I started vending before Emilio did. And I was like, dude, you should do it. You totally should. And then he started vending and he's crushing it. He does way more shows than I do now at this point. And I tried to see if I could figure it out, but I went back and I had messaged MJ years ago. And I was like, hey, you should have Emilio on your show. This was before he had ever been on. And I didn't tell Emilio I did it. And no one's been able to prove it, but I'm just going to go ahead and pretend like I was the one that hooked those two together, and they've been crushing it. But yeah, that was really cool to see and watch how Emilio was already an amazing breeder, but even just watching how he's grown since then has been really cool.
That's amazing. That's a really cool story of starting the bromance there, because those two are like, you know, brothers pretty much. And kind of I've gotten close to both of them certainly in the past few months. So they've kind of become older brothers to me. So they're also that's really cool though. And I'll tell them after, be like, hey, you know,
I was trying to look back to see if I could like definitively prove that I was the one.
Yeah.
But I looked back recently and MJ was like, I honestly have no clue. It's like at this point I have no clue.
Well, it is what now. They're kind of made now and they're crushing on the podcast game. And yeah, Emilio's been doing really well in the shows, and even in the low economy is doing really, really well. So that definitely says something about him as a breeder and someone I aspire to be like, both of them. So yeah, that was an awesome story. You don't see any further questions, so I'll kind of wrap it up with this one. But where do you see yourself in your business in like 5 years? Like, you want to add more species, get more projects, just develop the ones you have?
I would love to just continue to breed higher and higher end animals with less byproduct, and really kind of narrow into my couple projects, mostly double, triple recessives, like the Xanthic male and Xanthic pied, lavender pied. I've got some ultramel projects as well.
Yes. Love ultramel. That's my favorite. That's my main kind of bedrock morph, I would say.
Yes, you should look into ultramel banana Mojave. I made one. Amazing.
Really?
But then I also really want to get a dwarf caiman. So that's just kind of like my dream animal. And honestly, the only reason I haven't pulled the trigger yet is because there aren't a ton of resources for them. Able to like really feel like I'm confident with my setup before I purchase the animal. So if any of y'all on here have dwarf caiman and would like to throw a couple pointers my way, that would be great.
It's like a mini alligator, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I was thinking of the right animal. Huh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, usually when I ask people what species they want to add, it's usually not at the top of the list, but I respect it. So yeah. How big do they get?
4-ish feet, depending on male or female.
Okay.
And so because I'm in like coastal South Carolina, I could keep them outside for most of the year and then bring them in for our very few cold months in a much like smaller area than what they would have outside. But yeah, they're a fairly small size and they're really cool.
Yeah. Huh, cool. Hopefully there's some more research out there. We find somebody surely is breeding them and is successful. So it's just kind of finding that person and bring them onto podcasts so others can learn. So
yeah. And I don't even really care to breed them. I just want to keep them.
Yeah. Just want to keep them. Yeah. That's where I'm kind of at with like, I'm getting a green tree in the spring. And at first I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to breed them. But now I'm just like, I just want to keep one as a pet for a while and just see how it does and not rush into it and regret it. So
one tiny alligator seems reasonable. 50 tiny alligators doesn't sound so reasonable anymore.
Yeah. 4 foot doesn't seem like too terrible. You could probably build like a big enough like enclosure with water for it to be successful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Marcus Sunset. Yeah. I do have some sun. It's not the only thing I have. Yeah. They know I'm big into Sunset. Sunset Ultramel is probably the project I'm most excited for. But Ultramel, I do Ultramel Pied, Clown Krypton stuff, Sunset Ultramel. So it's kind of like in a lot of it. But
yeah, I do not have any Sunset yet.
Amelia, he was on.
Wait.
He says, "Thank you for the kind words, guys." He was a little behind the live, so he was just like catching up.
Gotcha.
Cool. Yeah. Nah, he means a lot to me, so I'll always respect him and look forward to seeing him again. So, all right, cool. About an hour and a half, like I told you it would be, so not keep you too late. How can people reach out to you?
Honestly, Messenger on Facebook is been giving me a really hard time. It doesn't show me when I get messages to my business page. So messages to my personal page on Facebook or Instagram are probably the best ways to reach me, or through MORPH Market. I'm on MORPH Market a lot.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, especially they have the direct messaging on MORPH Market too. Works easier. I noticed when I tried to tag you in the IG stuff, it said something weird. It was like this person. Yeah, maybe I'll talk to you after. But like when I tagged, it was like this account or doesn't do tag something I haven't seen before, and I was like, oh well, I mean you did see and share it, but yeah, it was a weird kind of thing. I was like, oh, maybe she like can't see all these the whole time or something like that. So
yeah, let me know when we're done because I want to make sure that gets fixed. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'll try to yeah, I'll make like a reel or clips or something or the other and try to tag you in it and then screenshot it.
That'd
Maybe like tomorrow morning or something when I post that. But yeah, I'll screenshot it and see what it's like. So okay. All right. Cool. Well, again, thanks for your time. This is a great episode. That scaleless corn snake is amazing. A lot of people were really excited about in the chat. So
good.
yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'll take you off stage and have a good night, Brooke.
Thanks, you too.
All right, guys. Awesome episode. Say good night to Phoenix over there. Yeah, that was super well. I thought it went just smooth all the way. I love talking ball pythons, and that scaleless corn snake was absolutely amazing. So thanks so much to Brooke for her time. Definitely go give her a follow on Instagram, reach out on MORPH Market. I know some of you guys in the chat were pretty excited about the scaleless stuff. So definitely reach out to her for more information. Next week I'll be in Chicago, but I'm still going to do a show. Just have a little bit different background than these guys, and we'll have on a bearded dragon breeder. So I wanted to bring on somebody from that species. I feel like we don't get a lot of that species on podcasts, and so I wanted to bring her on and talk. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, things you want to see, hit me up on Instagram, and hope you guys have a great start to your week.